Hello, welcome back to Restoring the Antique Free Sewing Machine, Part 5. Got a bucket of water there with some dish soap in it, and a kind of a soft nylon brush. The idea here is to lift the dirt out of the wood, kind of float it off. You don't really want to scrub hard. You're just sort of massaging it up out of there. And you don't want to rub hard on the edges because any loose veneer will get picked up and you could end up tearing out a big strip. So I just keep washing and wiping until the sponge starts coming up clean. Once the sponge starts coming up clean, I'll switch over to a towel. And then once the towel comes up clean, I figure I'm just about done. The horizontal surfaces are really the ones you got to worry about. The vertical surfaces usually, unless they've been stored somewhere really horrible, they're usually not that bad. All the dirt settles onto the top, but the sides are kind of protected. They're up under the top, and there's not too much can sit on them. So I'll just generally give them a wipe, and once the towel starts coming up clean, I call it a day. See a little piece of veneer popped off there? There's 2 or 3 that need gluing down, but overall this cabinet's in pretty good condition. And once it dries up, you can really see that the finish is pretty marked up. You can see big patches where it's just gone completely. So this here is a mixture of lacquer thinner and denatured alcohol, just half and half. It's used by furniture restorers all over the place for years and years. I learned about this recipe from my mother. As a kid growing up, we always had some kind of furniture getting restored in the house. And it's as useful now as it ever was. It'll soften the finish up and just kind of move it around a little bit. It'll strip a piece if you really want to. You can rub all the finish right off a piece with that mixture, but I don't really want to rub it off. I just want to move it around a little bit, even it out. You can see just with one pass, it took all the missing finish and distributed the remaining finish over the whole top. Now you're going to get darker edges, and the finish that was missing is, it's not going to miraculously reappear. You're just redistributing the existing finish. So there'll be, where the finish is heavy, there'll be dark spots, and where it's light, it'll be a little bit lighter. I don't mind that. I'm not looking to completely redo this piece. If I wanted to strip it and restain it, re-lacquer it, could get it looking like brand new, but that's not my objective here. I just want to make it look a little better. I'm not going for brand new. The wear and tear on this machine is all part of the history. It's all part of the story of this machine. I think it was used pretty hard. I don't necessarily want to eliminate traces of that history. I just want to make it look a little better, so it's not immediately obvious. Got the edges a little bit. You don't really need to get the edges too much, just like the vertical surfaces. They're protected. That little piece of the table that just is ahead of the lip there, that's protected because, not too much can rub on that. So even though that's a horizontal surface, it's kind of doesn't really get too much wear and tear. So quick once over. That was good enough for me. This is some old English furniture polish. And I'm just trying it on there to see what it looks like. You can see where all the finish was rubbed off in the center of this top. It's still very light. And around the edges, particularly that front edge, it's a little darker. So I was just polishing it up. Well, after polishing it up, I decided I could do a little bit better. So a little bit of that half and half mixture in a jelly jar. A couple of shots of Minwax. This is 210B, Golden Oak. And again, I don't want to restain this piece. That's why I just put a little bit in the mix here. I just want to tint it. I don't want to, I'm not trying to eliminate this wear. Just want to blend it a little bit. And you can see on that side that I just started working on that instantly blends it just a lot better. You know, you can still make out that the back side of that is worn heavy. Still makes you wonder what went on back there. That they wore that finish out like that. Was that a pin cushion maybe? Sliding around back there? On the left arm, you can see a heavy wear there as well, and I'm not sure what that's about. It had to be while it was being used as furniture, because with the lid open, you wouldn't have any access to that. Or maybe the lid just wears enough that it caused that. You know, there's no support on this lid. It just flips open and hangs out there. It's not like some of the other cabinets that have a little spring-loaded arm that come out. This just hangs right out there. So the tint, I think, is really doing just what I wanted it to do. Just kind of blending everything in nicely. This is starting to look a lot better to my eye. So I just go back over it with the furniture polish. And it looks a lot better this time. It's all sort of tied together. You can see little rings on the right side there. There's a couple little rings maybe where someone was placing an oil bottle. And on the left side there's a dark stain where something happened as well. Just opened it up here to get the edges around the inside. I want to catch those drips. I don't want them sitting in there. And now a coat of paste wax. This is just S.E. Johnson's paste wax. Just plain old stuff you get down at the hardware store. Get a nice coat of that on there. And while that's drying, I figured I'd start on the drawers. So first thing I'm going to do is clean out the areas around the locks. They need some work. Particularly on this side, the lock is hanging up for some reason. These frieze came, according to the literature, with the cast iron portion painted brown. The neat thing about that is you can't really tell in the picture here, but if you're up close on it, you can kind of see that those legs are rusty, but you know, the fact that they were painted brown originally, they look pretty good. kind of blends in with the rust pretty well. So I may just oil them up, let them go. Well, I've sorted shops and barns and houses, auction lots, awful lot of things over the years. And I've come to a method that I think is pretty efficient, pretty effective. I'll dump what I'm sorting out, and I'll just start to roughly go through it. Big chunks of stuff I'll start to move aside. In this case, I'm moving a lot of buttons. When I get to a point where it's kind of a big confusing mess again, I'll just spread it out and look at it and just go after whatever I see the most of. In this case, there are a lot of closures, a lot of buttons, pins and needles. And I'll just start a pile, whatever makes sense. In this case, obviously pins and needles is a pile. I got a little pile over there for salvaged fabric. Whoever was using this machine, I think, was pulling apart clothes and saving all the closures and buttons and things like that. So if they're attached to a piece of cloth, I throw them over there on the left. It's not real critical that you get this 100% right in this stage. You're just rough sorting. Just establish whatever piles seem like they're needed and go to town. And this technique really works for me just across the boards. Doesn't matter what I'm sorting. If I'm sorting paperwork in the office, for instance, I'll make a pile for contacts. I'll make a pile for property and equipment. Make a pile for receipts, pile for bills. I'll just start sorting. At my feet there are some number 10 soup cans, and those soup cans in all the shop spaces are in the same order. And that's nails, screws, nuts, bolts, and washers, and then random hardware. And finally, if there's any big groups of hardware like plumbing fittings or something like that, they'll go in the last bucket. But every shop has this station, and that way as I go through these sorts of piles, I can pretty quickly get everything sorted out. Now I found a knurled nut in here, and it looks very much like the knurled nut that should probably be on the tension assembly. So if I had to guess, I would think that maybe whoever was using this machine, when they hacked that tension assembly together, they took the original knurled nut and threw it in a drawer. In any case, it fits the little threaded arm, so I'm going to use it there. I don't know if it's original. I don't even know if it goes to this machine, but it was in the cabinet and it fits. So I'm going to use it. That's a theory, philosophy that you'll see repeated through all my videos. One of my challenges creatively, one of my hang-ups, I sometimes worry about what the best way to do something is, what the best finish for a cabinet would be, the best soap to clean it. You'll notice here, I'm using Dawn dish soap, SC Johnson paste wax. But I've been at this a long time. I've been around the block. So I'm aware of products like Howard's Magical Refinishing Juice and Renaissance Wax. And all these really popular and trendy products that promise a 2%, 5% improvement over something. And like I say, it is a personal challenge. I do get sometimes worried about, what is the best way? What is the proper way? You always want to do a good job. But I've found that if you just roll up your sleeves and get into something, you'll usually have it done way before everybody else is through arguing about the best way to do it. So I just use what I have. If I got Dawn dish soap, that's what I'll use. If I have Murphy's oil soap, I'll use that. If I got Howard's Refinishing Magical Juice, I'll pour it all over everything. I don't necessarily go out and buy a lot of things. I get a lot of things this way in auction lots, garage sales, big boxes of stuff, things other people are throwing out. And I find that there's generally enough to do what I need to do without having to go out and buy a whole lot. Well, I lost count, but I think this is the last drawer here. Just getting everything finalized and pulled on out. I think, all told, I might have spent 20 minutes sorting this out, and for my troubles, I got a nice big pile of vintage thread, a couple of tools, a whole lot of buttons. Popping that cabinet open just to try that knurled nut, and sure enough, it does fit. So I don't know. I don't know if that's what was there or not. I'll have to see if I can find some close-ups of these free machines. Well, sorting was definitely enough time for this wax to dry. Like I say, I spent about 20 minutes. So by the time I came back, it was a nice milky haze. And here I am just buffing it up to a nice sheen. Considering I didn't have to pull anything apart or strip any finishes off or anything, reglue any veneer really. Few pieces, but nothing major. I think it came out pretty well.